Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It's Monday, November 24th, about 7:15 at night, and this is our daily recap for the trades and holdings within Ulti, LFGY, and SLTY. They are YieldMax high yield income ETFs. Ulti for the ultra option income strategy. LFGY is the crypto industry portfolio option income strategy, and SLTY is the ultra short option income strategy. If you don't already, please follow me on X at ETF_Inspector1. Before we get started, got a shout out, a thank you. 05 Hoopa did a $1.99, I think it's called a super sticker. Slightly different than a super chat or the super thanks. But that not his first time, not his second time. He's given to the channel a couple times previously. So thank you again, 05 Hoopa. Obviously excited about a nice green day, not the band. And so let's take a look at how things performed. Everything green just about. Ulti up a little over 1%. That one was kind of sad when everything else was up so much, but we'll take a look and see why that happened. SLTY down 3.05%. So not a good day to be shorting the market, that's for sure. All right, we'll look at our spreadsheets. We'll start with Ulti Anonymous. Hi, my name's David. It's been 3 days since the last time I bought shares of Ulti. All right, so right off the bat, we've got some updates to the portfolio. I always forget if this is Khaki or Catchy. I think it's Khaki International. The funny thing is, a few years back when I was looking to change jobs, I talked to somebody who worked for them and was telling me to apply. So funny that I can't remember how to say it. But so they bought shares of them. Not a large position at all. $5.9 million, where they generally have $40 to $80 million in things. Sold our positions of Rocket Lab. It's a shame we didn't sell them back when they were a whole lot higher, but nobody's got a crystal ball. Sold those remaining 400 shares of SoundHound. If you watched last week's video, I said it looked like it was an oversight or an overlook. They didn't quite sell all the shares. Added QQQ to the fund, which is kind of odd because they just last week added QQQ to SLTY, so now they have them in the bullish and the bearish strategy fund. Sold their shares of Celsius Holdings and sold their shares of Symbotic, and also bought Twilio. All right, and those were sold, all the shares of Symbotic, Celsius, SoundHound, and Rocket Lab. All right, so then starting off with selling starting the option strategy. Generally, you've got a selling a covered call and then purchasing a protective put. We've got that portion, but then also selling a put spread. So trying to make money on both ends, hoping Khaki, I'm going to call it that, will trade somewhat sideways. That brought in $86,000. Celsius closeout cost $1.7 million. That can be expected, right? We've got sold calls and sold puts that needed to be purchased to close out. Google, they just closed a portion of their strategy, so they didn't resell. That's going to cost money too. $44,000. I forgot to say $1.7 million on Celsius closeout. IBIT, we spent $365,000 closing and rolling the calls. Right, the share price ran beyond the strike price on the sold calls. Meta, we got the same thing going on, closing and rolling, already rolling to next week on IBIT and Meta. And we're selling for middle of December for Khaki. So Meta cost 1.3, almost 1.4 million. We started the collar strategy, man, can't think today, on QQQ. That brought in $383,000. Rocket Lab closeout cost us $776,000. SoFi closing and rolling to next week already. That cost us $2.3 million. Symbotic is just a closeout. That cost us $2.6 million. And Twilio, starting the collar strategy, brought in $295,000. There was something odd about the QQQ. I just don't understand. Oh, so I believe that one's got another aspect to it too, because they purchased puts for December 5th and they sold calls for December 19th. I don't know if that's considered a calendar spread. I mean, obviously they're different dates, but I thought it was usually the same option at different dates. So, but in any case, if QQQ drops in the near future, we'll win those purchase puts, and if it goes, so long as it goes up but doesn't go up beyond that 630 strike price for the longer term, then we will get to win that trade as well. All right, so all in all, we spent $8.5 million today in options trading. That's going to go along with share values within the fund increasing by $55.3 million. So this one's a little frustrated, right? So Ulti's usually never going to move as much as its weighted average of if you held the shares themselves. So when it goes down, that's a good thing because Ulti won't go down as much. But when it goes up, it's not as good because Ulti won't go up as much either. Now, one good thing about this, obviously, a large move early in the week is going to very much increase the cost to close out a lot of the sold options. So now, if the market were to stay flat, then Ulti will continue to actually rise throughout the week because its costs will start dwindling away as the time value kind of evaporates. So, but that early in the week large move is not going to get realized right away. Just wanted to make sure you understand though, and we'll see also why, because we got a bunch of things that went up and were capped. All right, starting off, Affirm Holdings up 3.9%. Still another 3.1% to go on those 69s, so those worked out well. Astera Labs up 4.2. That was a problem because these started about 1% in the money at 140, so they went up. We didn't get to capture any of that. Now, the share values did go up in value. That's not what I mean by didn't get to capture. What I mean is the cost to close out those sold calls will have moved up basically one for one right along with them. So our costs increased at the same rate as our value. Cash, we got 74 million, goes along with 49, almost 50 million in government obligation funds. Celsius was actually down on this big up day. The biggest loser as well. They closed all those out. 37.92. Let's see if we got a better price than that for them. 37.97. We sold them a nickel higher. I didn't mean to shrink that. All right, Coinbase up 6.5%, just about. We got to capture almost all of it. The 255s did go in the money by 0.3%. Costco down 1.4. Come on, we added them for stability, and then when the market goes up, they drop. 905 calls are 2% out of the money, and 870 puts are 1.8% out, both being sold. Circle Internet Group up 1.98, just about 2%. $79 calls are 8.6% out, so we got plenty of room to run there. GDX, Van Eck Gold Miners ETF, up 5.8%. $80 calls are still 2.6% out, and $65 puts are 16+% away. Spider Gold shares up 1.58%. Still another 2.58% to go on the 390 calls. 350 puts are just about 8% out. Alphabet's Google increased by 6.3%. They did end up hitting a cap. 310 calls went into the money by 2.6%. We got to capture a little over half of that. They closed out those sold puts at this point. Robinhood was up over 7% and still out of the money by 1.7% on those 117s. IBIT up 5.4%. The All the calls went in the money, 1 and 2%. They closed out the 49.50s and their associated other side of their call spread. They've got puts as well, sold at 41. They're about 19% out. Iron Limited was the big winner today. This one's awesome, up 14 3/4, and they're still not even in the money. So we got to capture all of that upward movement. $50 calls are 3% out. Meta Platforms up 3+%. It did take those 600s into the money, and they did get closed out. Puts sold at 585 are still 4.5% out of the money. MP Materials Corp up 6.7%, again taking those calls into the money. 57s and 58s are 1.7 and 3.4% in the money. Oklo was up 1.5%. $100 calls are still 11+% out. Palantir up 4.78%. $165 calls are 1.6% out of the money. Quanta Services, one of the new ones from last week, PWR, up 2.9%. Calls at 470 for December 19th are 6% out of the money, and puts for the same date at 400 are 9.6% out. Rocket Lab got closed out, sold the shares. They were up 5.3%. $42.45. Did we get more than that for them? No, not even close. Ouch. Man, that's rough. $39.99. So basically, $2.50 on a 1.5 million shares. That's a shame. New Scale Power up 7.3% and still 2.7% out of the money on those $20.50 calls. That one's nice. SoFi up 8.7%. Didn't get to go very far before they got capped. 25.50s went into the money and did get closed and rolled. We sold those remaining 400 shares of SoundHound. Symbotic sold those million shares as well after their 3% up day. 55.46 is where they closed. Again, we missed like $2 a share on a million shares. So that's a couple million on each of those. That's like $4 million that is showing up over here that didn't actually happen. So it's more like a $51 million day. And Direction daily 20-year Treasury 3x leveraged bulls up 1.7%. $42 calls are still 2% out of the money. So that is how we had approximately, and that's why these numbers aren't perfect, $55 million increase in share values, but that is specifically share values. And you would say, well, 55 million out of 1.3 billion, the percentages might be different, but you just have to understand that with that increase in share values, the cost to close out all these calls increased as well. So that's going to offset some of that value increase, which is why your Ulti share price did not rise as much as would be expected. But again, sideways trading will actually result in upward movement on Ulti. 1.3 billion in assets under management. The average first call is now 1.6% out of the money. So we came into the week with lots of room to run, and we basically ran most of it already. So on average, we don't have a lot of room to go. Obviously, we would love for everything to just keep going up. They'll buy to close and roll to a new strike. We got 351 million outstanding shares. The NAV at the start of the day, $3.92. And so that was another thing. For some reason, Ulti closed Friday trading a good bit above its NAV. So if it realistically would have started at its NAV, it would have been a 10-cent up day, which would have been more like 2.5%, a little over 2.5%. So that's another reason why it didn't go up because it was already incorrectly up a little high. All right, tomorrow is payday distribution declaration day. I can't think. My guess was 5.25 cents on our weekend video. Obviously, the upward movement on Monday when the decision gets finalized definitely helps. So maybe it'll be a little bit higher than that, but we will see. Next, we have LFGY. They made it simple for us. They didn't make any trades. So $0 on the trading side. Share values increased by $9 million. Is that what I said? $9.2 million. No trades, so everything's still in play. We got a whole lot of red on the screen now, so a lot of our calls have gone into the money at this point. Bullish was up 7.5%. Unfortunately, they started already in the money and went further, so they're not going to get to capture any of that. 9.7% in the money on those 3750s. Bitmine Immersion, the big winner. This one's nice. Almost a 20% increase, and it didn't even take the sold options in the money. They're still 4.3% out at 3250. BitDeer up nearly 12%. $11 calls did go in the money by 4.5%. 2.2 million in cash, another 2.8 million in government funds. Cipher Mining up 18%. Gotta love it when we got an 18%er, a couple of them in a row, and they're not even highlighted green as the biggest winner. But those 1450s did go in the money by 13%. CleanSpark up another basically 18%, 17.99. 1150s are still just barely out of the money by 2 cents. Coinbase up 6.4%. $262.50 calls are 2.5% out. Core Scientific up 6.9%. $16 calls are still 1.5% out. Circle Internet Group, they started the week in the money and went further, increasing by just about 2%, but ending 3.7% in the money at $70 calls. ETHA was up 8.4%. That's a big move for them. Still 2.5% out on those 23s. Galaxy Digital was up 5.8%, and unfortunately they were pretty much at the money at the start of the day, so they are now in the money by over 5% at 23.50. GameStop was up by 1.8%, taking them just barely 1 penny into the money on those 2050s. Robinhood Markets was up over 7%. 108s are now more than 6% in the money, and 121s are still out by 5.2%. They've also purchased these deep in the money calls at 50, expiring in the middle of December. So those will have a very nice increase. Well, I mean, at that point, it should be moving like dollar for dollar. So they should go up 7%. Hut 8 Corp, 14% increase. $36 calls went into the money by 8.3%. Then we got the IBIT deep in the money calls representing shares since we did the tax loss harvesting. They went up 5.4%. And so we've got, man, I probably ought to, let's add. Nope, that doesn't make sense. What happened? All right, we'll leave this alone for now. I'll fix it later. All right, their sold calls at 52 are still out of the money by 2.8%. Obviously, their deep in the money calls will have just moved up by 5.4%. Mara Holdings, 11.3% increase. It did end up taking those 11s in the money by 1.8%. MBTX went up to 210.61. They have purchased a put debit spread, buying the 195 for the end of the year, so that will have not like the upward movement today. That'll decrease the value. Mercado Libre up 2.93%, taking their 1950 calls 2.93% in the money. So nothing like instantly losing your trades on the first day. Strategy up over 5%. 177.50s went in the money by 0.8%, and 195s are still out by nearly 9%. Venue Holdings up 0.2%, but they were already in the money, so just deeper. $15.50 calls are in the money by 2.6%. NVIDIA up a little over 2%, taking their 180s into the money by 1.4%. Opera was up 3.7%. They're still out on their calls by 4% at 14, and they're still out on their puts by 3.3% at 13. So they're kind of sitting in a pretty perfect spot to win both ends of that trade. But they're till December 19th, so that's a long ways to go. PayPal down just a fraction, 1 penny, so no real change. $58 puts sold are 4.2% out. Riot Platforms was up over 9%. They did end up getting capped towards the end of that. 1350s are 2.7% in the money. Same thing with SharpLink Gaming, up nicely, 5.8%. Right at the end, they did get capped. $10 calls are now 8 cents in the money. M Block was the big loser, down 0.15%. I thought I saw something bigger. I might be thinking of Ulti. Nope, that's the one. 0.15%. Love to see if every single day had the biggest loser being a 0.15% loss. But they're they were so close to the money. Their 62s are now 0.2% out of the money. So that's how we had a almost $9.2 million increase in the value of the shares within the fund. The average call is actually now in the money though, so we're going to be having to pay to close out these trades on these options unless things pull back a little bit. But we'd actually rather pay to roll things up and stocks keep moving upward than for them to pull back. There's 164 million in assets under management, 6,225,000 outstanding shares. NAV at the start of the day 26.38, closing around 27.64. Very nice day. I forgot to hit on this since we had no trades. Guesstimate that I made was 37 cents over the weekend. Again, a very nice Monday. Definitely helps with that. So maybe they bump it up just a little. I think 37 flat would be the lowest ever. But if they throw some change on that 37, they could keep it from being the lowest ever. But I mean, it's this week they're paying out based on the lowest share price ever, so it would still make sense to have a low distribution. All right, finally, SLTY. SLTY got their butt kicked today. That's going to make them win their trades, though, because if they're selling puts and everything goes up, they can close out those puts and roll them to a closer strike. So that's what we get. With so little money invested and so few outstanding shares, I doubt many of you are paying attention, so I'm not spending the amount of time to work on these charts. I basically just multiply them all out, make sure I add the negatives to all the purchases, and get the total sum of all options trades. And they brought in $295,000 on their options trades today, so it's successful on that side of things. But their share values dropped by $1.1 million. That's because if you short the shares and everything goes up, then your cost to close out those shorted shares increases. And so that's why you can see a 12% increase for Applied Digital resulted in the value decreasing by $155,000. There, surprisingly, there's actually like Better Homes and Finance, even after an up day, calls are way, or puts sold are way in the money, 9.4%. They're the only one that's bad. Like at QURE is just barely in the money on their sold $28 puts, but that is less than half of their positions. The biggest winner in their fund, SanDisk Corp, up 13.3%, but being a big winner is not good over here, so that dropped the value by $133,000. The biggest loser was only a 0.5% drop for Enphase Energy, so that helped the fund by nearly $6,000. All right, if you want to really talk about each fund and where their positions are sold, just go check out the week look ahead video for Ulti and SLTY right there. That's kind of the only time I spend the extra time on SLTY. After that, just want to get the video over during the week. So the average puts 7.7% out of the money. So these things can drop basically everything except for Better Home here and what do we say it was? Unicure. Everything else can basically drop about 7 or 8%, and SLTY can capture all that in their share price. But today their share price dropped by, we said, about 3%, I believe. Oh, I just realized I forgot to put LFGY on the thumbnail before making this video, but I'm gonna make the thumbnail at the end, so this was a pointless thing to talk about. Sorry. 29,500,000 assets under management, 750,000 outstanding shares. NAV at the start of the day, 39.44 before dropping to 38.49. So for some reason, I think I was only looking at Ulti and SLTY on the thumbnail that I was making before I started, so I only talked about those two at the beginning of the video. LFGY up 4.25% on the day. So forgot to say that at the beginning, so better late than never. Speaking of which, forgetting to say things, SLTY guesstimate for this week was 60 cents. So we'll see how close I get tomorrow morning. All right, that's everything I got for you. So we got a dad joke and then get things over with. So thank you for watching. Appreciate all the likes, shares, comments, and feedback. And so here is your dad joke of the day. How do you tell if an ant is male or female? Drop it in water. If it sinks, it's a girl ant. If it floats, it's a boy ant. All right. Good luck trading tomorrow. I'll catch you in the next video.